Let's talk about some mental math with percents. So when you're trying to get your students to think about calculating percentages using mental math, it's a lot easier sometimes for them to think about it in terms of the fractional equivalent. So here are some common percents and their fractional equivalents. So if I asked you to find 25% of a given number, that's the same as dividing that number by 4, right? 1/4. 50% is half, and so on. So, for example, to find 55% of 62, it might be easier to first find 50% of 62 in your head, and then 5% of 62, and then add those together. So to find 52% of 62, the process you should think about is 50% is half. So I want half of 62. That's not too bad to do in your head. That's 31. And then to find 5%, you should think, well, 5% is half of 10%. So I want half of 10% of 62, which is half of 6.2, which is 3.1. And then finally, to put it all together, 55% must be the sum of those two numbers, 31 plus 3.1, or 34.1. All right, I want to go through some true-false statements. So we're going to read each statement and decide whether or not that's a true statement or that's a false statement. So Leonardo got a 10% raise at the end of his first year on the job and a 10% raise after another year. His total raise was 20% of his original salary. All right, so this one here is false. For example, suppose, for simplicity, I'm going to call him Leo's original salary is $100. Then at the end of the first year, he gets a 10% raise. 10% of 100 is $10. So he gets a $10 raise. At the end of the second year, he gets another 10% raise, but what is his total income now? His total salary is 100 plus 10, or 110 here. So at the end of the second year, he gets 10% of 110, which is going to be an $11 raise, for a total, or total, my goodness, a total raise after 2 years is $21, which is not 20% of 100. All right, I gotta erase so we can read this. Jung and Dina paid 45% of their first department store bill of $620 and 48% of the second department store bill of $380. They paid 45% plus 48% equal to 93% of the total bill of $1,000. So what do you think here? Here again, this answer is false. And the issue here is that they pay 45% of $620 and 48% of $380. These wholes are different. Right? So I can't just add those percentages up and say that they added that sum in percent of the total bill. Okay, so this is false. That would be nice for them if that was true, but that is indeed not the way that it works out. All right, Bill spent 25% of his salary on food and 40% on housing. He spent 45% plus 40% equals 65% of his salary on food and housing. Okay, so here, this one is true. Here, the whole in each case was Bill's salary. And so we can add the percentages up. Okay. All right, what about border town? In border town, 65% of the adult population works in town, 25% works across the border, and 15% is unemployed. And everyone in town is in exactly one of these categories. What do you think here? Well, this one is going to be false. And the issue here is that let's do 65 first. 65 plus 25 plus 15. If I add those up, that's equal to 105, which is more than 100%. So that means that I can't have everyone in the town in exactly one of these categories. All right, last one. Clean city. The fine for various polluting activities is a certain percentage of one's monthly income. The fine for smoking in public places is 40%, for driving a polluting car is 50%, and for littering is 30%. Mr. Schmutz committed all three polluting crimes in one day and paid a fine of 120% of his monthly income. Is that true or false? That is going to be true. And again, the issue is that the whole in each case is the monthly income. So he owes 40% of the monthly income plus 60% of the monthly income plus 30% of the monthly income. And so in that case, I can sort of factor the monthly income out and add those percentages up. 40 plus 50 plus 30 is 120. So 120% of his monthly income. All right, please let me know what questions you have over this section. Get a start on the homework, and I'll see you for the last section.